Today, a man was hit and killed by a cement truck on a road under I-93 in South Boston, just over a week after a 4-year-old girl was killed by a pickup truck outside the Children's Museum in Boston's Fort Point neighborhood. And in February, 2 men, one on a moped, were hit and killed just hours apart in Roxbury and Roslindale. Across Massachusetts, pedestrians have been killed by trucks and cars at alarming rates. 70 people died last year alone. So why do we see so many pedestrian deaths? And what can we do about it? I'm joined now by Boston's Chief of Streets, Yasha Franklin Hodge, the Program and Policy Coordinator for the nonprofit Livable Streets, Catherine Gleason, and GBH News' Transportation Net reporter, Bob Seat. Yasha, what's going on? What are the steps that the city is taking to improve pedestrian safety?
Yeah, so the city's been invested for many years in what we call a Vision Zero program, really trying to end deaths and serious injuries on city roadways through changes to the design of our streets, adding improvements that help pedestrians cross safely, safe bicycle infrastructure, changes that slow down speeding drivers so that there are fewer deaths and collisions among motorists. And these changes can sometimes take time to do across a city as big as Boston, but our approach has been to methodically change our infrastructure to reduce the places where people are at the highest risk. Unfortunately, there are still too many people, thousands a year, who are injured on city streets, and typically on an average year, about a dozen who are killed. And we know we have more work to do to really bring those numbers down.
Catherine, how does Boston compare to the rest of the country?
Right. Well, so looking at the rest of the country, Boston does tend to be doing better in terms of reducing pedestrian crashes than even the rest of Massachusetts. But of course, at the same time, especially, in a moment like this where we're reacting to the tragic death of a 4-year-old girl, it's, of course, hard to think about how well Boston is doing at reducing those crashes when, of course, they are still happening and they're people's lives.
Bob, we've just had this horrible incident from a few days ago. Do we have a sense as to what the failures are that's causing this to happen, and how they're addressed by the programs that are being laid out?
Yeah, we don't have an actual cause. It's still under investigation, but there are what you could call contributing factors. And I think one of them is speed and visibility, and these are 2 issues that I know the city is addressing. But it seems like a lot of these things happen when, people are driving, they can be distracted. There's a lot to look at when you're driving through the city. And being conscious of being able to see everything that's going on is important. And I know, Yasha, the city has taken some steps to improve the visibility, particularly at that intersection.
Yeah, I mean, the city and myself and so many members of my team were absolutely heartbroken at the death of young Gracie on a city street. And I think, it should never take a circumstance like this to bring change. But we know in the aftermath of something like this, we put all the resources that we can at this location, looking at all of the factors that could potentially contribute to a crash here. And some of the changes we've already made, as Bob mentioned, there's a lot of emphasis on speed and visibility when we think about any kind of traffic safety. So we've added what we call daylighting, where we block a parking space on the corner at the crosswalk approaching the Children's Museum to make sure that turning cars can see pedestrians who may be waiting to cross. That also slows down cars on that turn. We've also last night restriped every crosswalk in the area surrounding the Children's Museum and Martins Park to make sure those markings are bright and reflective. We have some other short-term changes planned, but the big picture here is that we've been working for a number of years to reconstruct all of the streets in this area, Congress Street, Sleeper Street, A Street, with safety as the emphasis. And this project it's a major reconstruction, and it takes a while to plan, but we expect it to go out to bid this year and begin construction next year. It'll be about a $9 million project, and it's going to bring some real robust constructed safety improvements like raised crosswalks and protected bike lanes that we know are going to make these streets safer for everyone.
So nationwide, the Governor's Highway Safety Association data that says for pedestrian fatalities in the United States, we're looking at from January to June in 2019 to 2023, we see this is a problem that's getting worse, right? It was just under 3,000 in 2019, 2,951. By 2023, it's up to 3,373. So nationwide, this is like the country is getting worse in terms of pedestrian fatalities. Boston's doing better than that, right? In 2022, it was 12, and in 2023, it's 7. And I know, sort of from the way that I personally cross the street in Boston, I'm amazed the numbers aren't higher than that, because I am sort of the problem, the index case of someone who does not pay attention. I know that. So what would you like to see the city do? What are the steps you'd like to see it take in order to get these numbers down, as Yasha said, to Vision Zero?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, the progress that the city has made so far and the urgency with which they have addressed a lot of the safety issues at the site of this awful crash is, incredibly encouraging to see. And, of course, knowing that construction and more actually changing the streets takes longer. So we're certainly encouraged by that. I think something else with respect to this crash that, the city has less control over is really the issue. And I think part of the reason why pedestrian crashes are on the rise nationally is with respect to the increasing size and weight of vehicles. Recent studies have shown that these sorts of vehicles like SUVs or pickup trucks, which was what the driver was operating in this crash in particular. We know that, visibility isn't as good. It's harder to see people who are maybe walking or biking on the road. And also just the size and the weight means that there's a greater chance of traumatic injury or fatality when struck by these vehicles.
So the normal story about what people often say about why they like to drive in these very large vehicles is that they're safer and they feel safer. But strikingly, when you look at the death rate, this is not for pedestrians, but for people actually in cars, the United States, which has these enormous cars, these yank tanks, as they're called in Europe. Just by comparison, the U.S. roads are actually much less safe than other countries. So Sweden, the death rate per 100,000 people is 2.2. In the United States, it's 11.1. It's actually more than 5 times as high. So I wonder, Bob, can you help us out? What are the driving factors behind making traffic in the United States just so much less safe than the rest of the developed world? And what are the obstacles to improving that situation?
Well, I think that the one common complaint you hear most often is speed. People are speeding down these streets. Some of the people at Sleeper and Congress Street said there's drag racing going on. And I'd like to ask Yasha, what are the ways that the city is looking at to curb speed?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think, these factors about changing vehicle weights, changing behaviors, frankly, with drivers. We do see more speeding. We see more aggressive behaviors. We see less willingness to yield to pedestrians. I was out this morning at the corner of Congress and Sleeper looking at some of the changes that we put in yesterday. And, just watching drivers kind of bully their way into a crosswalk where people were waiting to cross, it's sort of heart-stopping to think that this is happening less than 2 weeks after a child was killed here. And you watch this kind of behavior right in front of a memorial for somebody who was killed. There's an element of this that relates to enforcement and establishing, better and safer norms for how people operate vehicles, especially heavy vehicles in city streets. There is also a lot that we can do from a design perspective. We announced last year a safety surge program that is going to eventually bring speed humps to every residential street in Boston. We're planning to do at least 500 speed humps a year. And this recognizes that not only are people driving faster, not only are those vehicles heavier, but with the rise of navigation apps, people are being routed into neighborhoods where maybe, 10 years ago they would have stayed on the main street. Now they're treating a neighborhood street as a cut through to save 2 minutes on their drive to work in the morning. And so using things like widespread deployment of speed humps, I think, is one of the tools that we can use and deploy relatively quickly. We're also making changes at our signalized intersections. We're reconfiguring the geometry of individual intersections to slow people down on turns and improve visibility. So all of these things together It's part of a system, and while we can't regulate the size of vehicles, we can help reduce the chance that big vehicles are going to contact the pedestrian in a crash and hopefully save some lives as we do it.
Yasha, is there also are you working with the Boston Police about traffic enforcement, where traffic laws in the city?
We are. I mean, I think, the enforcement is always tricky, right? Because you cannot be everywhere all the time. And enforcement comes with other consequences and impacts for society. And so I think we, certainly want to make sure that our traffic laws are treated seriously by people who drive on our streets, and police enforcement is a part of that. We also believe that automated enforcement using cameras, this has been shown to have proven safety benefits in other municipalities that have deployed it. Right now, Massachusetts law does not allow us to deploy them here in the state, and we would like the ability to do that in select locations where we know that there's a big safety benefit to be had, near a school, for example, or in other safety-sensitive locations where the history of crashes. So we hope to partner with the state legislature in the years ahead to change the law to allow us to do more of that automated enforcement as well.
Catherine, what's the most important thing that we could do to improve pedestrian and traffic safety in general in Boston that we're not doing right now?
Yeah, well, I think to Yasha's point, I think the most important thing at the end of the day to improve safety for people walking, for people biking, and also for people driving is, really to focus on how our streets are engineered and what the conflict points are between folks who are crossing the street, folks who are biking, and folks who are driving. And I think that is like the most important way that we can really be making not just people safer on our streets, but also making everybody's experience as they navigate the streets better.
Okay. So Yasha had to drop out early, but we thank him for joining us today. Catherine, Bob, same with you. I think this is an issue that touches the lives of every person in Boston, so we're going to be checking into it pretty often from now on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.